Welcome to Little Seeds of Faith, a podcast where children help read a treasured Bible story, and we get a chance to explore and talk about the lessons we learn. Hi, my name is Joanie, and I love reading. My most treasured book to read is the Bible. The Bible has great adventures, love stories, stories of hope and truth, and most importantly, stories of faith. Hi, Gillian. Welcome to Little Seeds of Faith.
Hi.
Can you tell me how old you are and where you're from?
I'm 11 years old and I'm from Upstate New York.
Great. And can you tell me some interesting things about yourself?
I like to bake and ride my bike and hang out with friends.
What is your favorite thing to bake?
I like making pavlovas.
Pavlovas. Ooh, those are yummy. I do like it when you bake those. Gillian, what story are we going to read together today?
Moses.
What part of Moses are we going to be reading? What part of his life?
When he was a baby.
When he was a baby. Moses was a little baby. Great. Do you know where in the Bible we find that story?
In Exodus.
In Exodus, that's right. At the very beginning of Exodus, right? Because he is the main character throughout the whole book of Exodus. And so we find him at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Before I read, I like to know what's going on so that when I read, I have a better understanding of what's happening. So what book of the Bible comes before Exodus?
Genesis.
Genesis, that's right. Genesis, then Exodus. Genesis ends with the story of Joseph. Okay? And why is that important to know about Joseph before we get to Moses? So we have the story of Joseph at the end of Genesis. And we know that Joseph was taken captive to what city?
Egypt.
Egypt. That's right. Joseph was taken captive to Egypt, and he did well in Egypt, and he became very high ranking. And the Pharaoh in Egypt really liked Joseph, and there was a famine in the land. And Joseph's family, who were not in Egypt, they had to come to Egypt to get food, right? And that's when the whole story, we'll get into this. We'll read the story, I'm sure, at some point. But Joseph's family comes and they find out that Joseph's still alive and he's doing well in Egypt. And so all of Joseph's family comes and lives in Egypt. Okay. And that's where the story of Genesis ends, when Joseph's dad, Jacob, and all of his brothers come and live in Egypt. Okay. And so some time has passed, as many years, over 300 years, I think, has passed. And now we have a new Pharaoh in Egypt. Now, the Pharaoh in Joseph's time really liked Joseph and his family and had no problem with them living there. But we have a new Pharaoh that is in charge of Egypt, and he doesn't know the whole story about Joseph. Okay, and so he is now a little bit fearful of all of Jacob's family, all the Israelites, the Jews that live in Egypt, because they are becoming too large in number. And so why is that a problem for this new Pharaoh? Why is that a problem?
Because one day they might group up and take over.
That's right. That's exactly right. So one day these Jews might be too big of a group and they might say, let's take over Egypt. Okay, so that's kind of the background. So we have a Pharaoh who is fearful of this large group that's living in his land, and he needs to do something about it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to read in Exodus chapter 1 and chapter 2. Are you ready to read?
Yes.
All right, let's begin. So we're starting in Exodus 1, verse 8. Now there arose a new king over Egypt who did not know Joseph, and he said to his people,
"Look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply." And it happened in the event of war that they also joined their enemies and fight against us, and so go up out of the land.
Therefore, they set taskmasters over them to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were in dread of the children of Israel. So the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor. So I'm going to stop right there. So we have this Pharaoh who is fearful. He doesn't know Joseph or know Joseph's story or his people, and he sees this group and he's very fearful of it. So what does he do to try to control this group of people? He makes them their what?
Slaves.
He makes them their slaves. They put taskmasters, means people over them, to make them work hard. But what's happening as Pharaoh is kind of making the Israelites work harder? What's happening to the Israelites?
They multiplied. They had more children.
Yeah, they prospered. They were doing better in this time, right? And you probably would think that maybe they wouldn't do better because they're being oppressed and they're becoming slaves. But the way that's happening is they are multiplying. All right, let's continue reading.
And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage and mortal and brick and in all manner of service in the field, all their service in which they made them serve with rigor.
Rigor is a word that means lots of extra hard work, okay? And so their life was made bitter with hard bondage, as what we just read. So these people worked hard. And you've seen pictures of Egypt where they have, in Egypt where they have? These big buildings, what do they call them? Pyramids. What are they all made out of? Brick, stone and brick. Do you think that's easy to build and work with? No, not at all. And this is what the Pharaoh had made these people do, is make these hard bricks out of mortar. And it's a lot of work. Hard work, okay? We're going to keep reading. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said,
when you do the duties of the midwife for the Hebrew woman and see them on the birth stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live.
But the midwives feared God and did not do as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the male children alive. So the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them,
why have you done this thing and saved the male children alive?
And the midwife said to Pharaoh,
because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptians women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them.
Okay, so Pharaoh sets out a plan. So what are midwives? Do you know?
They are the women, the women that are...
They help with the birth of babies.
Yeah.
Okay, they're there helping in the birth of babies. And so he says, I know what I'm going to do to stop these people from multiplying. I'm going to get to the midwives, and the midwives are going to do what? What's his plan? Have the midwives
kill the boys.
Kill the boys right there at birth. But do they do that? No. And what's their excuse?
Because they aren't like them.
The women are not like the Egyptian women, and they say they just have babies without help. They say they don't need help. They just have babies, so we're not there at the birth, which means we can't kill the sons. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's keep reading. Verse 20. Therefore, God dealt with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very mighty. And so it was because the midwives feared God that he provided households for them. So since they didn't do as Pharaoh commanded, they didn't kill these babies, God provided for them. God took care of them. Okay? So Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying,
every son who is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive. So Pharaoh's first plan didn't work. And a man of the house of Levi took his wife, a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, dabbed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river bank. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him.
Okay, so let's just talk about what we just read real quickly. There's a man and a wife, and they have a son, and the mother looks at the baby. What does she see of the baby?
It's beautiful.
A beautiful child. And why does she have to hide him for 3 months?
Because she doesn't want to cast him in the river.
Yeah, he doesn't want him to die. He sees a beautiful child and hides him for 3 months. And why do you think after 3 months she feels like she's got to do something a little different?
Because he's getting loud, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. He's only getting bigger, maybe a little louder. And she's got to figure out a way to save his life. And so what does she do to save his life?
She makes a little basket out of...
bulrushes. The reeds. They're like reeds from like the side of a river.
And pitch, and she puts the child in there.
Yeah, that's kind of a scary moment, right? Mm-hmm. She puts the baby in a basket and then puts the basket on the river. And then does she just walk away?
No.
No, what does she do?
She puts him in the river, and that her daughter watches him to make sure that he's safe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let's continue reading here. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said,
"This is one of the Hebrews' children."
Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter,
"Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew woman, that she may nurse the child for you?"
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her,
"Go."
So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her,
"Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages."
So the woman took the child and nursed him, and the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying,
"Because I drew him out of the waters."
All right, thank you for reading that with me, Gillian. There's a lot in there, and we often talked about a lot of things. We didn't talk about the last bit here about when we get to finally meet Moses as a baby. And this is important. So Moses should have been killed, right? Mm-hmm. All the other sons at the time were being thrown in the river. And who ends up saving Moses?
Is Pharaoh's daughter.
Pharaoh's daughter. She knows instantly when she looks at this baby that this is as she says, a Hebrew's baby. This is one of the Hebrew's children. And she falls in love with this baby. And what does she do?
She gets a nurse for him.
Yeah, who's the nurse that's going to take care of Moses?
And the nurse was his mother.
It's Moses' mother. So Moses' mother, she took a leap of faith, put this baby in a basket, put him on the river, and then not short long after, the baby comes back to her and is protected because Pharaoh's daughter says, "This baby will be mine until it's weaned, until it's old enough, and it'll come and live with me." And what does the name Moses mean?
It means because I drew him out of the water.
That's right. So when we read the story, Gillian, what is the exciting part for you?
When she put Moses into the basket because they were trying to kill all the babies, and she had faith that God would take care of him. Yeah, she had this extra faith inside of her to do that. Yeah, that's a very exciting part, because if you're just reading it and you don't know the end, who Moses turns out to be, you could be fearful that maybe there's some crocodiles in the river or other predators that are going to come and kill this baby, or it gets washed down or wave, who knows, right? Mm-hmm. And she just said, I'm going to trust that this baby is going to be taken care of. That's great, Gillian. Thank you. Is there a time in your life where you had to be courageous? Well, once I thought I broke my nose, and I had to trust in God that he would take care of me.
So how did you trust in God that he was going to take care of you?
By praying to him. And
did he take care of you?
Yes.
Did you find that when you were scared and fearful and not sure what was going on, that when you prayed to him, did you find that helpful?
Yes.
Yes, you found that helpful to you. When you prayed to him, did it calm you down?
Yes.
Yes, and then you were able to get to know the situation a little better?
Mm-hmm.
Did you break your nose?
No.
No, you didn't break your nose in the end, but it was still a very scary situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Gillian, do you have some questions about the story that you would ask maybe your friends and see what their responses are?
So one is, could you give away something knowing you'll never see it again, like Moses' mom? Why did Pharaoh want to kill him and the other babies?
Those are two really great questions. Thank you, Gillian. And Gillian, I have asked you, do you have words of wisdom, a joke, or a fun fact that you would like to share?
I think I have words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Okay, I like words of wisdom.
To be brave and always know that God will take care of you.
Be brave and trust that God is always going to take care of you. Well, thank you, Gillian, for sitting here with me today and reading this Bible story with me. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
I hope this podcast planted a little seed of faith in your heart today. If you would like to read with me, email us at littleseeds@wcfoundation.org.
Did you know that some of our outreach programs help those in financial, medical, and emotional crisis? Bad things happen in the lives of many. We believe in helping those who have stumbled. This includes assisting in the cost of emergency medical procedures, help to those who have lost employment, or those facing a sudden challenge due to emotional difficulties. If you would like to donate, please visit wcfoundation.org and look for the link Invest in Faith.